Thank you, Jaime and Amy. All right, so what comes to your mind with that phrase, thieves and bandits? Let's hear it. People online, you can put it in the chat too. What comes to your mind? Thieves and bandits. Sheriff, robber. I'm having trouble hearing. What else? Ice. Thieves and bandits, yes. What else? Masks. Okay. I think of like specific people when this comes to mind, like Jesse James or something, like robbing a train, right? Or like Ocean's 11, like George Clooney and Brad Pitt just stealing from a bank or a casino or whatever. Nobody said government officials yet? I'm surprised. Oh, okay. Of course, Brian, of course you did. There we go. I wouldn't expect anything less, yes. Thieves and bandits come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. All sorts of different shapes and sizes. And while, of course, we think, of the ones that we can see and the ones we can blame and what we associate with those, there are also those behind the scenes that are stealing more than just our money or our things or our belongings. Come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, and to me, that is what makes Jesus' words in this passage so striking. Because when he's talking about thieves and bandits, he's not just talking about the obvious harm, he's talking about anything that really takes life without giving anything back. And those are very strong words that he spoke in our passage today. And these days, we're all affected by this sort of thing in one form or another. Mix that, all the thieves and bandits there on top of all of the political and social things we're experiencing in the world right now. We're experiencing, on a global scale, just exhaustion and fear and exploitation and just harm, and media, all sorts of media, including social media, just amplify all of this, and it just seems like everything is so loud, and we are emotionally kind of manipulated sometimes, even to outrage and comparison and anxiety and depression, and it just causes all these different things. And it just raises the question, like, who is actually shaping us? Who is actually shaping us? What voice are we letting in here? What voice are we tuning our ears to and listening to? Because not every voice that we hear actually has life or our well-being or our prosperity or thriving in mind. Quite the opposite, actually, it feels like. So our passage today, John 10, doesn't come out of nowhere. Vivian just read a wonderful little background. Jesus had just got done in the story healing a blind person, and there was all this drama surrounding it. The religious leaders ended up going to the guy's family to kind of authenticate, was he actually born this way? Is this a real thing? They were questioning it and really kind of policing the situation. And on top of all that, it's on the Sabbath, so that's a no-no. They're supposed to rest. So Jesus is breaking all these rules in order for them, and the people that are really supposed to be the shepherds of the people, those who care for, protect, and guide the people, instead kind of start to, really do harm. They expel this guy that has been healed from the community, and they refuse to believe the authenticity of Jesus and what he's saying and what he's doing. It's this whole thing. And having already restored the sight of this guy, Jesus seeks him out again after his expulsion, and he brings him along with him. He kind of brings him into the fold of his friends. And so for that blind person, salvation isn't just receiving his physical sight back. It's being able to be gifted with new relationships after he's been expelled. It's being invited into this other community and this other relationship. His days of isolation and, they're over. He belongs somewhere now. He knows himself to be a valued member of Jesus' flock, so to speak, cared for and protected. In that story, when Jesus starts talking about shepherds and gates and thieves and bandits, he's not speaking in an abstraction. It's a real, it was part of the story. He's responding to a very real situation, and he says, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in another way is a thief and a bandit. It's a critique of who the true, or what the true shepherds should look like or should be doing in his estimation, how they were supposed to be shepherding. And when he says, all who came before me are thieves and bandits, he's not just talking about random individuals. He's naming systems and structures that people are taking part in some form or another, claiming authority over other people's lives and their well-being, and ultimately diminishing them. Thieves and bandits don't just steal material things. From this story and from everything we see today, even in our own experience, thieves and bandits can steal dignity. They can steal agency. They can steal our belonging. They can steal our patience. They can steal our very breath that we breathe. They can steal our future that we dream. They take what was meant to be shared and they turn it into something that's hoarded, controlled, and even weaponized. And in Jesus' time, those bandits included more than just, specific religious leaders. They lived under empire, so they included imperial systems that excluded labor and wealth and life from vulnerable people. There were authority figures who claimed to guide, but instead they consumed and they took. And that world, as you know very well, is not so different from our own today. That world is very familiar to many of us. Because theft doesn't always look like just outright robbery. Sometimes it actually looks like normal life. We've got accustomed to it. We've gotten used to it. In many ways, we've today gotten used to being robbed of a number of different things. Not because it isn't real, not because it isn't normalized, but there's another kind of theft that we don't talk about very often. And, this couple weeks back was tax day, right? For many of us, that's just something we do. We file, we get our return, or have to pay whatever we owe, and it goes. But where's that money going? Look around. Where's that going? In many ways, even our budget is a moral commitment, right? That money is going to, it really tells us what we value as people and as a society. And we will look really honestly at how our resources that we are giving are being allocated in the world. We see staggering amounts, not just of thieves and robbers, but we see staggering amounts directed towards weapons and warfare, over $1 trillion to that, by the way. We see that including systems of surveillance and control. We see that going towards industries that extract from the earth without any regard for future generations. We see policies that are dividing and detaining and deporting, and this is affecting us personally. This is affecting us and our friends and our family. And at the same time, we're told there's not enough for health care. There's not enough to go around for education. There's not enough for housing. There's not enough to take care of the planet and the environment. As a matter of fact, we're going to extract from that. There's not enough for the basic dignity of people that are literally just trying to survive and to do it well. And this isn't about pretending that there's any easy solutions to that. But it is about telling the truth about what is going on and where this is going toward. Because when Jesus talks about thieves and bandits, he's not just talking about individuals that are making some bad choices here and there. He's talking about systems that are extracting life, taking more than they are giving, if anything, just like we're living under today. Systems and structures that influence life in such a way that it is diminished, even when everything appears to be functioning normally, or just because we've gotten used to it. It's normal. And the hard part for me, and I have to think that the hard part for you as well, the hard part is knowing that we're all, in some sort of way, involved. We're entangled in these systems. We're born into these systems. We participate in them, often without even realizing it, often without any alternatives, and that can feel extremely, not just frustrating, but absolutely overwhelming to even think about that. Life becomes something to manage and just survive or even lament instead of something to live and to thrive. We find ourselves today just exhausted, stretched thin, disconnected, and in many ways we feel like we have failed. And that's exactly why Jesus' words matter so much to us this morning, because he doesn't just name that theft, he invites us to imagine and to begin to live into something different, a different kind of relationship, a different kind of economy, a different kind of vision of what it means to be human together. Abundant life is not just a personal thing. Abundant life is communal. It's about the kind of world we are creating together and the kind of world we're willing to resist in order to get there. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. That's the function, says Jesus. Systems built on domination will always move in that direction. They will always move towards extraction instead of mutuality. It will move towards control instead of freedom, towards scarcity instead of abundance. And we can feel that in our lives, in our own burnout we're experiencing, in our own anxiety that never fully quiets, in our own relationships that feel not just transactional, but completely dead. We see that in a culture that thrives on comparison and competition. And this is modern life. In many ways, we are still sheep without a shepherd. My sheep hear my voice. I know them and they follow me. The difference between the thief of the shepherd is not just in intention, it's orientation. The thief takes, the shepherd gives. The thief exploits, the shepherd calls by name, we see. The thief isolates, the shepherd gathers. And at the heart of it, Jesus says, I came that they may have life. This is an often quoted verse. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Not just barely enough to get by. Not just constantly anxious or depressed or sick. Not always striving to prove something. Life abundant. That doesn't have to be just this future promise. That can be about our life here and now. That can be the ability to recover, to be able to breathe freely and deeply again. The recovery of joy and shared connection. The possibility of communities where people are not reduced simply to their usefulness or their function. Abundance. Abundance is not about having more than others. It's about a shared life, a life that flows outward, not just upward. It's a communal event. It's a communal thing. Jesus also says something weird, and I think we all gloss over this too easily. He compares this, he says, we're so used to hearing Jesus say, like, I'm the shepherd, I am this, I am that. But he says, I am the gate. It's a little bit odd. I am the gate. All right. That can seem like odd or restrictive sometimes, but in the world that he's speaking to, gates and boundaries were never neutral. Shepherds, especially those in power, were often compared to, or rulers and kings and emperors and this sort, were often compared to shepherds. They described themselves as ones who guarded or guided or protected and provided for the people. But those leaders were also the ones who were drawing those boundaries. Those leaders were also the ones deciding who belongs and who does not, who controls access to these resources, who determines who is safe and who is excluded, who determines who is healed and who is not welcome. Too often, those boundaries are not about care. They're about control. They're about keeping some in and keeping a whole lot of others out. So when Jesus says in that context, I am the gate, he's not just offering like a comforting image there or a weird one. He's making a contrast. In fact, he's making a challenge, a refusal to let the powers of his world, and even today to our world, define what safety and belonging and leadership actually look like. I believe that call is to our own time as well. The gate is not about locking people in. It's about showing us the way out. Out of these systems that are diminishing life, out of these patterns that are keeping us stuck, out of boundaries that were never meant to give life in the first place, but to take it out of those things. It's not a barrier, it's an opening to greener pastures. So we're left with this question. Who are the thieves today? And the uncomfortable truth about that is, the thieves and bandits aren't just out there. They're not just voices that we're hearing out there. They're also voices that have crept in here. They're also voices that have crept in here. Perhaps without us even knowing it. They're the voices we've internalized. They're the systems that we participate in and don't question. They're the assumptions that we carry about ourselves and our neighbors. And sometimes without realizing it, we might be sustaining them, even participating in these things. Good news, though. There's a voice that is not silenced. The voice of the shepherd, the true shepherd, the good shepherd, is not silenced. It continues to call. And as much as these things continue to weigh upon our lives and oppress us and our planet, as much as they might have found their way into control in our life and control in our minds, there's also another presence of a voice within us that calls back to life instead of survival. There's a voice that calls towards connection instead of isolation. A voice towards abundance and not just scarcity. A voice towards love and not fear. So that's my question that I leave you with this morning. Whose voice are we listening to? Whose voice are you walking out that door today listening to, and during the week listening to? The one that drains and controls and diminishes, or the one that continues to call us by name, who knows us and leads us to that life abundantly? I think we can still get there, and we'll continue to journey together towards it, right? Amen.